You are listening to KC Sports Network, the #1 podcast network for today's Kansas City sports fans. With former players from your favorite teams, informed perspectives, and former insiders, this is the place for you. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts or on our YouTube channel, all over social media, or our morning newsletter, KCSN Daily, dedicated to your Kansas City Chiefs. KC Sports Network is proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
What's up, everybody? BJ Kissel, Ken Swanson from the Kingdom Bar and Grille out in Overland Park, Kansas. Chiefs lose 2017 to the Indianapolis Colts, and it's shocking.
Yeah.
This is as shocked as I've ever been with a Chiefs loss since I've been covering or been around them. That is fucking brutal.
I don't want to be like a prisoner of the moment or too extreme. Is that the worst regular season loss in the Mahomes era?
Yeah.
I think so. I think we just witnessed the worst loss in the Mahomes era in regular season. It was awful. I mean, there was, and everybody shares a piece of it. It's just an abject failure across the board with 10 days rest coming off a massive win. Yeah, that was stunning. That was a stunning loss. The things... Darren's bringing shots over.
It's Darren. It's the owner of the Kingdom
Bar.
Of
the Kingdom Bar.
Bringing shots. And we've got a special guest. We're going to get into a lot of this, but I know he's short on time. So, Tucker, let's bring on James right now. We got NFL Network's James Palmer, who's joining us. James,
my head looks huge.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, guys.
How's it going?
What a wild! I'm going to tell you guys. I can barely hear you because these guys haven't won any games yet this season, so it's pretty loud. They're pretty stoked about that. I thought pregame it was going to be a weird game. I thought something was going to happen. This happens with the Colts. I did the game against the Patriots here last year, where just something kind of odd happens. It's almost like when Frank Reich was a player. When his back's completely up against the wall, that's when he's at his best, and it's kind of the way he's been as a coach too. And everybody kind of wrote these guys off the way the first two games went, but I just knew that there was just kind of an odd feeling about the way this game was shaping up. Too many people were saying this was just, a layup for the Chiefs, and the Colts knew that they had to do something in this game. And I think that's why things kind of went a little bit sideways. But we can talk about it, guys. The whole press box was like, what are you doing? Going for a field goal in that situation. Like, nobody has really understood at all what that play call was. We'll get a chance to go hear what Andy Reid had to say. Well, I'm curious what your guys' take is, and I'll put my head next to this because I forgot my AirPods again.
Yeah, we're pretty stunned here, so we're trying to make sense of a lot of this. But between that decision and the rest of what went down with special teams, I don't know if there's been a worse performance with Dave Toub as leading the Chiefs special teams unit than what we saw today. From the very, very beginning with Sky Moore and the muff punt when I was texting with you, to the fake field goal attempt, to the missed field goal, to the missed extra point. I mean, it was to steal Ken's term, an abject failure in that phase of the game across the board.
You have to win in all three phases. And we got the roof open here. Jim Irsay got his team going early because it looked like Sky Moore couldn't see the ball on the first one.
Yeah.
That was tough. It was really wild. I posted a video of Mahomes walking up the pregame where he was kind of looking around at all the glares and really kind of curious about all the sight lines that were obstructed with the sun coming through with the roof open. And so, hey, maybe Jim Irsay seems like he got himself a little help early on, but there's no excuse for the second one from Sky Moore that was ended up being down at the one for the Colts. I think it was their second punt of the game. The kicking game was just not good by any means. But yeah, with the way that things all you have to say, BJ, right, is you don't have faith in this kicker with Harrison Butker. So we're going to put Patrick Mahomes on the field on 4th down and have him try to throw it. Because in a fake field goal doesn't give you a better chance. Mahomes just going for it.
Yeah, I didn't like that fake field goal at all.
So. No, I didn't like the decision either. James, we're going to let you go. We know you got to get to the pressers and try to make sense of all this and hear from the players and coaches. But
right now.
All right. We appreciate it, James. Again, that's James Palmer from NFL Network there at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. We'll get back to this one. There's a lot. Maddie Lane and Craig Stout are going to join us here in a little bit because there's going to be a lot of different opinions on this one. But this one, to me, is going to be tough to swallow just because you got to give, and I understand from the Colts fan perspective what James just said. The Colts came out and they did enough to win the game, but really felt like the Chiefs just gave this one away.
You want to know something? I don't know if the Colts did enough to win this game. I think the Chiefs just did way too much to give this game away. I think the Colts tried to give that game
to
him.
Our guy Jelani Woods did enough.
He did great. I mean, I'm not trying to discredit what the Colts did at all. I'm just like genuinely, the Chiefs did a lot of things that just one or two things would have been bad, but they did just a list of things that kept them from winning that football game. They gave that game away the way I look at it.
Yeah, like I said, we're going to break this one down. It felt weird from the beginning with the Sky Moore muffed punt. We were just talking about with James. I mean, all the different special teams miscues, and we'll get to the defense and we'll get to Patrick Mahomes, who I thought in general, I don't think he played poorly.
Yeah.
All things considered, no, he'll have the interception at the end of the game. But the running game got nothing. At one point, Clyde had 7 rushes for 0 yards. Really nothing from the running game. I think Patrick Mahomes is the leading rusher in this game. So,
yeah.
But when you look at special teams, the muffed punt, we talked about Lamons downing the punt at the 10-yard line when it was going to roll in. There were a couple of guys around. That was early in the game. And obviously the missed field goal, missed extra point, and then the fake field goal attempt at the end. It's just got to get Harrison Butker healthy and Dave Tobe. It's going to be interesting to see what he has to say on Thursday when he takes to the podium, because that's going to be a tough one for him and for the rest of those guys play that phase of the game.
Yeah, they got to get back to the drawing board. They got to get back to the fundamentals a little bit. And there's probably I don't know how to broach this, but I mean Matt Amendola has had a very up and down career historically as a kicker, and the Chiefs elected to use a 6-man competition in a practice setting to determine their kicker. I don't think that they should do that next time. Personally, I would consider maybe going with someone with a better track record in a real NFL game, because Matt Amendola is who he's always been, and that was a little bit disappointing there too.
If you hear the bar going crazy right now, we just saw the end of the Buffalo Bills game, and the Buffalo Bills lose to the Miami Dolphins. And the Dolphins moved to 3-0 on the season, wow. And the Bills moved to 2-1. That is also shocking in this one, but again, for the Chiefs to go on the road and play a team that hadn't played very well over the first couple of weeks. We talked about being the home opener for the Colts, that they were going to get better with Matt Ryan and this offense kind of gelling and getting used to each other as he's in a new system and all those things that were talked about throughout the week. But I can't complain too much, Kent, about the defense. I thought for the most part they did a good job, although we made the points, and we'll go back and break it down and watch the film, but it felt like the good plays they had is when Spags was really sending extra guys. I thought the blitz packages was really, really good. They were really aggressive. That Colin Saunders had a fantastic game. But yeah, weird game. I just can't get past special teams because offensively I can't point to too many things besides the running game and all of that. But Mahomes didn't look too far off. Orlando Brown Jr. did not have a good game, even when he wasn't tripped.
Joe Tooney didn't have a great game.
Yeah.
Wiley, the entire offensive line was bad. I'll give you a stat here. Outside of Patrick Mahomes' runs, the Chiefs averaged 1.68 yards per carry. Clyde Edwards-Helaire had 7 carries for 0 yards. 7 carries for 0 yards. That's hard to do, man. Like wow. It's just, so many things about this game were weird. So many things about this game didn't go well. Execution across the board, discipline across the board was really, really not there at all. And it's early in the season, but I feel like this team really has to look at themselves and respond to this in a big way.
This one's going to hurt because no matter what happens, it's going to be competitive down the stretch. You stay healthy, they're going to be in it late in the season. This is going to be one that you look back on and be like, man, if they end up either missing the playoffs or missing home field advantage or whatever, you're going to point to this game. And it was completely unnecessary for it to happen. And at this point, I'd rather Harrison Butker go out there and kick with one step.
Yeah. I mean,
he kicked a 54-yard field goal taking one step.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I'm trying to be as measured as I can now.
I'm trying not to yell and swear and cuss.
Yeah.
I saw Gina's comment saying she's too pissed to be positive. We're not going to be positive in this, but we are trying to keep this as family friendly.
You know what you should do? You know what will help? If you aggressively press the like button and aggressively press the subscribe button.
Don't break your computer.
And then leave an angry comment during this show while we are going live. We're going to all process this together. Blake Egan saying, lost for words. I agree. And we're
airing of grievances in the chat room, and Tucker will bring on your comments. And speaking of bringing on stuff, let's bring on Maddie and Craig now.
Oh, you're bringing on some comments now.
Yeah, let's bring on.
We sure we're allowed to have
2/3.
Are we sure Maddie wants to come on right now?
Maddie, how are we feeling?
Oh, I'm feeling great. Let me tell you, there's nothing quite like watching
his mic's not
that on. To feel good.
Turn your mic on, Matthew.
I have. Is it not working for you guys?
Nope.
Please
You're on your AirPods. Let's go to Craig real quick while Maddie gets his camera, or excuse me, his microphone set. Craig, how are we feeling, man?
Oh, we're feeling awful. Just like the special teams were today. It is inexcusable how awful special teams were today. It takes a lot for a special teams group to impact a game enough to where you can point to it and say, man, that is primary reason number one why the team lost this game. Like, it really does take a lot. And there was a lot of reasons why the team lost this game, but it was special teams, number one. You have a muffed punt. You set the team up at the 1. You have a missed field goal, a missed extra point, and then whatever the hell they were doing on that fake punt, if that was a called one or if Tommy Townsend just pulled it, just awful all around. All it would have taken is a field goal to do this, a field goal to set this up and to just be decent on special teams. And they weren't. They were just plain awful all around, start to finish. Tommy Townsend was the only redeemable thing with his punting today. Everything else, throw it in the trash and start over.
Chris Lamons took 5 yards off of one of his punts too by picking it up early off the 10 too.
I'm willing to give him that because I don't know how that second bounce is going to be. Like, you trying to feel that off the bounce. I'm fine with that.
Not today. Not today.
That's like number 8 on the list of special teams things that I'm mad about today.
It's just a microcosm of everything almost though. It's just like, even though it wasn't the biggest, it wasn't affecting, the game that much. It's just another one of those things to point at and go, this team wasn't sharp. They weren't prepared. They weren't focused in any aspect of the game. I mean, defense did a lot of really good things today, but their best, highest paid defensive player couldn't keep his mouth shut in the biggest moment and get off the field when they needed him to. They had him stopped. They had the game locked up.
What did he say? We need to know what he said.
I don't care what he said. I don't care what he said.
But wouldn't he throw a flag for talking like that?
Yeah, I am team trash talk. Just generally,
Everybody talks the entire game.
Yeah,
why the hell throw a flag in that situation?
I think it happens once or twice a year, and everybody always wonders what you have to say. But here's the thing. Whatever it is has to be so bad that you should know not to say it. Like, there's clearly a line, because it does. And this isn't the first time. Like, we've all seen it. There's clearly a line, and it's got to be pretty obvious that there's and it had to be said loud for the referee to hear it, because he was right in Matt Ryan's ear. It's just, I'm not condoning throwing the flag there, but whatever he did, I have no doubts that it crossed some kind of like unwritten rule, because it happens very seldomly, but it does happen. And you have to know better in that situation.
Speaking of lines, how about that offensive line, Maddie? That's probably a place that we should start, because that was an awful, awful look for that group.
Listen, my podcast performance to start here is just mirroring the Chiefs' just performance across the board in this game. Mike's not working. I had to leave. I agree with Craig that special teams probably ultimately cost them the game. This offense, I don't want it to get brushed to the side that how bad the offense was in this game. Yeah, the special teams cost them, but the offense was almost as bad. They just could have survived because they still have Patrick Mahomes and good players that would have gotten enough points without the special teams mistakes. But that offensive line, terrible. Passing concepts, terrible. Coaching decisions across the board, absolutely terrible.
Mahomes had to drag them from kicking a field goal with their kicker, who is one of the
missing a field goal.
How is Matt Amendola? I'm sorry, really quick. It's all going to start flowing out if I'm not careful. How is Matt Amendola on this roster? The sixth kicker competition in a game in a setting that is not a real game setting. That's how you chose your kicker. When it happened, I went, really? That's what you chose? You chose one of the statistically worst kickers out there in free agency because you had a competition. I believe Chase McLaughlin, the kicker for the Colts today, was in that competition.
I read off his stats when the Chiefs signed him. We were live on a podcast, and I looked up the stats and read off, and I said, nah, there's no way that this is a real decision. There's absolutely, positively no way that this was the guy that they ended up choosing in this particular situation, and yet here we are, and now it's costing them a game, and highly unfortunate for them. It clearly impacted some of the decisions they made, but it also didn't impact them enough to just say, okay, heck with it, we're going for it, or I don't know. I still come back to the coaches on this one, but yeah, I think they are in a tough spot as long as Matt Amendola is their kicker because they can't trust him to make extra points even.
They didn't trust him for anything.
Why are you out here doing a fake field goal? Like, seriously, I'm with James Palmer here. Why are you out here trying to fake field goal then? Like, what's the point? You getting tricky? Everybody knows to be alert to it. If you don't trust your kicker, and you haven't all game long, now all of a sudden you trot that out there, of course it's going to be covered. Put Patrick Mahomes out there. Why do you want Tommy Townsend throwing the ball? I love Tommy. I love what the fake stuff that they have done with him. But Patrick Mahomes in that situation is who you want to go with. Why are you out here getting cute? Or just take the field goal. Let Amendola kick the field goal in that scenario if you're really that worried about sustaining drives, putting points on the board, yada, yada. Just line up and let him do it because a field goal does wonders in this game. Just one field goal.
Yeah. I'm still trying to process this right now. I'm stunned. I'm thinking about all these little things that you just go.
We're all going to take like a 45-second break because Tucker's got a word from DraftKings for us right here.
I do indeed. It's going to be a graceful transition as well. And I'm sure that you guys all know about our friends at DraftKings. They're kind of the best. And NFL action is in full swing here at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. We're talking touchdowns, big plays, and even bigger wins. New customers can bet just $5 on any NFL team to win and get $200 in free bets if they do. If that's not enough, everyone can boost their winnings with DraftKings stepped-up same-game parlays. Right now, for every leg you add, you can boost your winnings up to 100%. With bigger payouts than ever, why bet on football anywhere else? To make things even sweeter, you can throw down on stepped-up same-game parlays once per game day all season long. Here's what you got to do. You got to download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code KCSN to get $200 in free bets if your team wins when you place a $5 bet on any football game. That's code KCSN only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See the show notes, the description for details.
All right, guys. Now, thank you for the graceful transition, Tucker.
Good job, buddy.
One of the things I do want to talk about is we've seen some comments in the comment section, but also on social media regarding, and I think they're two entirely separate situations that are now going to kind of meld it together. And that was what the TV cameras caught going into halftime between Eric Bieniemy and Patrick Mahomes. And that I'm going to go on record, obviously not knowing exactly what was said, that things like that is a very tame conversation compared to what these guys have generally. Patrick Mahomes is always going to want to throw a touchdown. He's always going to want to go out there and score points. He's always going to say something when that's the situation. But just because Eric Bieniemy and the coaching staff decided something else, let's not lump this into the rest of there's things going on inside the locker. That was a caught on camera situation of things. And I've been down on that sideline. I was there for 6 years and a year when they won the Super Bowl. Things like that happen all of the time. So we can sit here and talk about the coaching decisions and all of that. But, guys, I want to get your opinions on this, too, because that didn't even faze me in the slightest bit. It was just something that was interesting and caught on camera, and now it's going to be turned into something different because of the way that the game unfolded.
So for me, I probably tainted by some offseason rumors, but that looked like a conversation that boiled over from not a specific incident. If they came out and said this was specifically because they called a run play there at the final play, then okay, so be it. I have no reason not to agree with it. But I think you kind of saw some stuff last week where Mahomes looked a little upset with, and it could have been the play of the game, how he was playing, or anything like that. But his demeanor and his face looked a lot like it does on other games where the offense isn't going the way that you want it to, when it doesn't look easy. And it almost looked like he was disagreeing with Eric Bieniemy about something they had to do. Now, I'm not saying that they are fighting, that there is some kind of major issue. There's just clearly a disagreement about what both sides wanted, whether it's game long, that specific drive. We don't know, and we honestly never will know.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is going to dredge up all of that from the offseason, and it sucks because it's something that they probably, if it would have happened, a minute and 30 seconds later when they were in the locker room, nobody's sitting here and nobody's going to blow this up. It's probably the same conversation they've had lots of times at halftime in the locker room. We've seen it with Travis Kelce. We've seen it with other guys. Like, it happens all the time. To me, play calling is an issue. I'm not going to say that it's not, but to me, that's not one that I'm going to sit here and pin it on and say, now there's discord in here, and now there's a problem, and now the Chiefs offense is going to suck all year long. No, that's not this at all. I think this is just it is a boiled over thing related to an isolated incident for sure, but it's not something that I think needs to be painted as this massive issue that's going to be a problem.
All right, let's talk about some of the massive issues that we saw, Maddie, and I want to get to, because you made a comment earlier about the route combinations and just about offensively the pass game concepts and what they saw. What was it about that surprised you? And and B, is the reason that we're in this position right now, in your opinion, offensively?
I think so. It looks like a team that clearly doesn't know what their identity on offense is yet, and that makes sense, right? There's a lot of turnover. You have a lot of new pieces, so it makes a ton of sense to not know what your identity is going to be. However, I think the Chiefs are not doing a good job of utilizing the body types they have. Just look at what the Colts are doing. Look how many times they threw it to Michael Pittman or Alec Pierce when they were covered relatively well, but put the ball away from the defender, let the big guy make a catch and make a play. The Chiefs don't really do that. And whether that's a scheme issue, whether that's a Patrick Mahomes doesn't like those plays as much issue, whatever it may be, that's the offense they now have. They don't have the speed to constantly have guys running wide open. They're going to keep seeing tighter coverage because they don't have the athletes to break open. So they either have to go back to the drawing board to figure out how to get these guys open or start finding a way to better utilize them to their skill set. And I just don't think they've done that the last 2 weeks at all.
I think the thing that's kind of alarming to me when I look at the totality of all this too is you're seeing regression from the offensive line. It's inarguable. They've ran the ball horrifically. Their pass protection has been bad the last 2 weeks. You dismissed, some moments from Joe Thuney last week as, it's going to happen, Joey Bosa. He hasn't looked good this week either. That's 2 straight weeks. Orlando Brown had his worst game as a Chief. The regression is real, and that's what's so alarming and concerning to me about all this is, we can talk about identity, and you're absolutely right. This team doesn't have their offensive identity yet, but they're not doing things that they did last year. They're not executing to the same level or playing to the same level or capabilities up front that they did last year. And so you take that and you mix it with, okay, now we've got a lot of offensive pieces trying to figure things out together, trying to work together. And it's not working. And then I think about so they're trying to get, Marquez Valdes-Scantling got tons of targets today, right? He was getting fed the ball a lot. There was a couple opportunities for I look at McCole Hardman. I don't think Mahomes trusts McCole because there's opportunities there for to kind of give him some opportunities. So it's it's a mess. It's just disjointed. It's disorganized right now, and I'm kind of surprised by that. Things just aren't playing well off of each other, and I don't know. There's a lot of little things that are piling up very quickly in the season. They've got to figure out, Craig.
You don't say. Scoring 3 points and a half from this offense is not great.
They only scored 3 points.
Yeah, 3 points in the second half. That's how bad it was. I mean,
and yet the second half offense was better. That was the better half of offense.
Yeah, I can argue that it was better.
You want to. I'm sorry, I don't want to jump into. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to just jump over you, but I believe the 2 touchdowns were short fields. I believe both touchdowns occurred on short fields.
They came off the turnovers.
Come on.
Downs and a fumble from the Chiefs defense that we haven't talked about yet. We'll get to that. No,
we
it's
won't.
Inexcusable. They were unable to move the ball at all. It didn't matter what it was. It was errors. It was drop passes. It was not seeing the open running lane. It was pressure allowed quickly by the offensive line. It was all bad. Like, it really was all bad. Like, we can look at it and say, yeah, there was moments where it looked good and there was moments where things went right. But that's been kind of the case with everything outside of Travis Kelce cooking Isaiah Simmons in week 1. By and large, everything else from the Chiefs offense has been disjointed, has seemed like you're pulling teeth a little bit to get to what it needs to be. And there is a disconnect. Like you said, it does not feel comfortable. Even at times when the Chiefs offense has not looked good in the past, it still felt comfortable for drives. Now it doesn't feel comfortable for drives. It feels comfortable for a play or 2 plays in a row or something like that. It doesn't seem to blend together well. It doesn't seem to flow very well. The trust isn't there. The players aren't executing well. That is a problem here because you've got a lot of people that are making a lot of money, both on the offensive line, as pass catchers, in the backfield there. Like, that has to get rectified. And it has to get rectified quick because I hate to say this, and I wouldn't have ever believed I was going to say this to start this season. They are wasting a very good defense right now. And that is crazy to even think about. But right now, that offense and special teams today, but the offense is wasting some ridiculously good defensive performances.
Yeah. Do you have anything, Beach? You good?
No.
All right, let's talk. All right, look,
just angry.
We've done enough on offense. We've done enough on special teams. We can talk a little bit about the defense before the Chris Jones meltdown. I liked a lot of what the defense did. I think Steve Spagnuolo had a great game plan, largely.
Yeah, I mean, he did. It was 4 sacks and allowed 3.08 yards per play. That's it. That is ridiculously good defense. They were able to get off the field a lot of times on 3rd down, and they had a couple of 4th down stops, forced 2 fumbles on strip sacks. They set the offense up in great positions, and they did a very good job of being blankets and coverage, stopping Jonathan Taylor from really milking the clock until right there after the Chris Jones penalty, where it just seemed like the wind was completely out of the sails. They did a really good job of stopping what the Colts do best, and it's what we expected. Matt Ryan has not been particularly good this year, but they did get Michael Pittman Jr. back, and they got Alec Pierce back, and by and large, those guys were non-factors. Alec Pierce had a great snag that he was able to take and really kind of set some stuff up, but throughout the day, the Chiefs defense did a really good job pressuring Matt Ryan, sniffing out the concepts quickly, and making plays. Problem is, it all gets overshadowed with, one 15-yard penalty that extends a drive. They go down, they allow a touchdown at the end of the game there. It is going to get overshadowed all game long, but this is by and large a terrific defense.
Throw that stat up really quick again. Robert Still, unfortunate surprise stat. Andy Reid is now 5-6 on the mini bye. Wow,
that is surprising.
That is very, very surprising. Maddie, anything on the defense?
I would love to see what the Chiefs are before the mini on Thursday nights too under Andy Reid, because I don't think they usually play that great on Thursday nights either. So that's just an interesting, especially if you have a not great before and after it. Defensively, yeah, I agree, Craig. I think overall it was a very good performance. It's hard to kind of nitpick a lot of it. I do think one of the big issues is still the fact that the Chiefs have to bring a blitz to get pressure, right? They're not getting consistent pressure with 4. Yeah. And that's a problem. And I think you saw that on the few successful drives the Colts had. The Chiefs opted not to blitz. Chiefs got 0 pressure. They were able to find guys that were open. Jalen Watson had a couple plays that he gave up after a big performance last week. He's a rookie, and he gave up some big ones. He made some nice plays, but he gave up some big ones. So it's just The defense is good. I don't know if this defense is ever going to be consistent enough to win you games if you have offensive performances that are this bad and everything else doesn't go right. Colts offense isn't good. It's really, really, really bad. So like the Chiefs defense, while much improved, I think they 100% out-scheme their opponent to win a game solely on their back. And that's going to be a problem for this team right now because they're still struggling to just line up and play and win defensively. They have to out-scheme their opponent, and that's fine when the offense works. When the offense is whatever this is, you need a little bit of luck, and that's what they got last week, and they didn't get any this week.
All right, real quick, let's get the toast game out of the way while we're talking about the defense, and we're trying to hang on to all the positive things that we can from this game. And I was going to split it. Well, we talked about a certain player. I want to give Spags half of it because I feel like Spags did a good job with the adjustments, knowing, and you guys bring up a great point, that it felt like I was talking to Ken about this during the game at the bar here, that it felt like the only time we were getting pressure is when Spags sent guys, but they're being so creative with how they do it that they resulted in the negative plays that led to the only points that we actually scored in this game. And so half of the MVP or the toast is going to Steve Spagnuolo. The other half is going to Colin Saunders. Finished this game with 8 tackles, never had more than 4 tackles in any other game. And so our toast game presented by our friends at Holiday Distillery and the new Ben Holiday Bottle and Bonded Bourbon is going to Steve Spagnuolo and especially to Colin Saunders, who thought was all over the place, had his best game as a pro.
Easily his best game as a pro. Made plays against the run and the pass. More of that going forward, please, from Colin Saunders, because that'll play, buddy. That'll play.
And the fullback rep. That's all we really – there was a fullback rep. That's why he got it.
Was that Joe Tooney that got beat on that play?
Joe Tooney got
somebody
pushed
on the interior.
I think it might have been Joe Tooney.
He got across his face.
Yeah.
By DeForest Buckner, who's a very good player. But, yes, that is what happened on that play.
I'm still stunned, guys. I mean, the Chiefs had 5 sacks. They had 5 sacks today. They forced 2 fumbles, and they lost. They lost.
And listen,
Multiple fourth down stops. Multiple.
I think we have to give more credence kind of to the end of the game management too. Like here, when the Colts were driving, I don't know what the Chiefs' plan was because the Colts had enough timeouts and not enough space. They were 100% going to be able to run out that clock or have enough time to attempt to score. Not using your timeouts, you gave your offense 0 chance. I don't know what the time person that's in Andy's ear was telling him there, but that was a bad look. That was Philly Andy clock management right there.
I asked Kent towards the end of that game, right before the Chiefs were getting the ball back after they had scored, do you feel like if the Chiefs had used their timeouts that the Colts then would have ran the ball if their entire goal at that point was to try to run out the clock while play that game a little bit, knowing that it may have turned out differently? Because I was thinking the same thing of why are we not taking timeouts? If it's going to force them to then run the ball a little bit, isn't that a good thing in that situation? And so hindsight's always 20/20. We can always sit back, but I can't think of a time, and it's not you miss a field goal at the end, a field goal gets blocked. The Chiefs have had bad games where a special teams play at the end has affected the final outcome. I don't think I've ever been in a situation where I feel as confidently saying special teams lost the game for the Chiefs today. And it's not one play. It's not even 3 plays. We named off 5 plays that were very, very poor from the Chiefs special teams, taking points off the board, and a lot of different guys from decision-making from Dave Tobin, the fake field goal, and however that all went down, if we'll ever get the full story, to Sky Moore catching the first one, not catching the second one, pinning them back deep. It just, everything seemed like it was going wrong for Chiefs special teams today.
I just think when you look at the totality of everything, and I'm not trying to clump in the exchange at halftime with all of this, and I don't think that's entirely fair, but it just felt like there's just catching that on air was just a little interesting, just because I think there's just a little bit of frustration, I think, throughout that game, and just a little lack of attention to detail, and a little bit of the Chris Jones thing at the end too. It's just like all these little things added up, a ton of little things added up, and you've got to fix that before you fix anything else. You've got to address all that stuff head on, and hopefully this team responds. The discipline's there coming out and all that.
We've been in these situations before. It hasn't been special teams that we just talked about being the ones to lose it, but remember last year they started off 2-3, and we were doing post-game shows where it was fire everybody, everybody sucks, and that they're never going to be able to fix all these problems. They're absolutely going to be able to fix these things. The frustrating part for me that I won't back down or that won't change is that when you get to the end of the season, you're going to look back and be like, fuck, we don't have home field advantage because we couldn't get our shit together against the Colts. Because we couldn't not call a fake field. We couldn't make the correct decisions in the moment that is certainly going to cost us at the end. As far as what happens on the field, they're not going to play this poorly every single week. They will figure it out. There's too many leaders, too many Andy Reid. They figure these things out, but they can't go back and fix the problems they just caused for themselves. And now you look back at the game last Thursday night against the Chargers, like, good thing they pulled that one out. Good thing Jalen Watson did what he did, or we'd be sitting in a completely different situation right here.
I didn't even think about that. You mean the razor's edge? This is 2 straight weeks. Like I'm a little bit concerned about the offense, though. I think at this point, I'll be honest.
You should be. You have to be.
This is 2 straight weeks where it's sluggish, and
it was the vaunted Colts defense, though.
And
without
no
Darius or Shaquille Leonard,
no identity. That's the big issue. Is it's not even that it's just struggle. They have no identity. You say it's 3rd and 7. What are the Chiefs doing? Like, your only option is find Travis Kelce. They have nothing else you can point out. And years past, you could point out other stuff, but this year you cannot.
I mean, listen, the microcosm of the entire day is the Chiefs being backed up at the 1-yard line, lining up in the gun and handing the ball off to Clyde Edwards-Helaire with no momentum. Like, you're giving him no chance to do that against a ridiculously good Colts run defense. We talked about it in the preview. Don't run into the teeth of the middle of this defense. You're doing that on 1st and 10 from your own 1-yard line. Of course you gain no yards. And then you're setting yourself up behind the sticks. It happened all day. It happened against the Chargers as well. We are seeing a pattern now of just poor play calling, poor execution, a little bit of poor everything on offense.
Yeah. There's a lot to respond to here. What do you got?
I'm just looking at some of the team stats. I mean, the Colts going 1 of 3 on 4th down. It reminds me of how big those 4th down stops were by the defense. Nick Bolden meeting him in the middle and then holding him on 4th and short. And then
the defense wasn't the problem.
3.8 yards per play.
5 sacks. Fuck. I mean, it's just like you look at the box score and tell me how the Chiefs lost. It's stunning. I mean, it's stunning. I mean, they situational football was awful. It's just awful across the board. Special teams, situational football. The Chiefs got into plus territory every possession in the second half. They were in plus territory every possession in the second halk.
And had 3 points.
And got 3 points out of it. They even were in plus territory at the end of we're close to it with 24 seconds left.
Is it game plan or is it execution? Maddie, Craig, I'll give you each a step. No, you got to pick one. Okay. We're gonna establish some blame here. People are pissed. We get 24 hours to be upset. We get till midnight to be upset about this. But is it more play calling concept, or is it literally just not executing because Orlando Brown is falling down? Mahomes is getting pressure. He's scrambling all over the place, just looking for Kelce. Is it more game planning, or is it more guys just not doing their jobs on the field?
Okay. Welcome to the.
If you had to pick one.
Go ahead, Craig. You can have it.
I get to go first here, and I'm going to steal Maddie's thunder. It's execution. It's execution. We broke down a little bit of what happened against the Chargers. There were guys open that were just missed. There were guys open that were just missed. This one, Patrick Mahomes is feeling pressure, and there's not guys open. That's execution. It is. It's execution. Your offensive line is playing very, very poorly right now, especially for what we expected. The standards that we had set for the offensive line are not being met right now. And the standards that are being set for the receiving groups are not being met right now. So to me, it's execution. I'm going with that.
So BJ's about to get Maddie answered. The execution has not been particularly good, but I think the issue is the game planning is not putting the people in their best position to execute. I don't think that Juju Smith-Schuster's best thing is hitting a shake route and trying to run away from a corner that's got good leverage on him. I don't think MVS's best execution is running a bunch of deep digs or a bunch of deep comebacks. Like, you're not putting the guys in the position to best execute. Now, that said, they're not doing a good job when they are. And like Craig said, there's missed stuff that's coming up. But I think the bigger issue is the coaching staff has not figured out how to best utilize this particular group of players yet, specifically in the passing game. I don't know what this Chiefs run game is. I don't understand how a team can be this bad for so long with this many players.
All right, I have a question because they talked about this on the broadcast. I know I'm putting you on the spot, and we won't know to get to all 22 and you see the coverages. But they talked about on the broadcast that it felt like, Greg, you all right?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
His camera's glitched out a little.
Your camera's acting a little funky there. But
Special teams.
is it more – were you surprised the way Gus Bradley's defense came out and played? I know they talked a little bit on the broadcast that they seemed to go away from some things that they had done historically. Did you notice that? And do you think that that could have had something to do with the game plan and some of the things that they were doing, not necessarily being what they had prepared for?
I think that Gus Bradley, it looked like he branched out a little bit. It's hard to say without getting to see everything, and you only get so many replays, but it looked like they maybe branched out more than he has in the past. And I think that's probably a direct result of seeing what happened when the Chargers played man coverage against the Chiefs, especially when the Chiefs go with 12 personnel or they have a lot of their big bodies out there altogether. I think it's kind of a red flag right now. The Chiefs might not have a great answer for that unless it's Travis Kelce. So I think they did, but I can't confirm it as of yet.
Yeah, it seemed like they were still doing a lot of single high, but it might have been more man than just like the match 3 stuff that we typically see out of Gus Bradley. Doesn't matter. If it's man, you got to have dudes that win, and nobody won. And then the Chiefs didn't have the separation. Patrick didn't throw the ball to him in those situations. It's a problem.
There's a lot of talk during the offseason about how excited the receivers were that they were going to see more man now that Tyreek's not there anymore in week 3.
Uh-oh.
I mean, it's rough because Juju and Travis Kelce might be one of the best 1-2 combos versus zone in the entire NFL. Like those two together versus zone coverage are some of the best you can get. And the fact I think they are getting a lot of man, and Kelce, as he gets up there and is getting all the attention, is getting dealing with double teams and extra bodies. Juju's getting man coverage. Like all of a sudden, you just have nobody that is reliably beating man coverage unless it's Hardman with speed over the top, and the offensive line isn't giving you time to get there, even when you do go there. So it's been quite the whirlwind of unfortunate things kind of lumped together right now. I think, obviously, like you said earlier, they'll have this fixed when you get to the playoffs. Like, I don't believe that they will be this bad forever. It's just a matter of what does that look like, because it's hard right now to see the path to get there or what they're going to fall back on the way it's looked the last 2 weeks.
Well, and it's just frustrating. It is immensely frustrating to just see, like to BJ's point earlier, there's time. There's a lot of time this season left. But your margin for error probably wasn't as big as it's been in the past for achieving the 1 seed or, accomplishing all the goals. And wrong or right, the goals in Kansas City aren't making the playoffs, winning the AFC West. They're winning Super Bowls. And so anything that gets in the way of this team winning the Super Bowl are the things that we try to discuss and the things that we try to bring to light, and where frustrations start kicking in maybe a little quicker than some other places. But this is an unacceptable loss. This wasn't a issue of youth entirely. I mean, there probably is a little bit of it. There were some special teams gaffes from some rookies today. Like there's a little bit of that there. But I don't think largely the issue with this football team was they're young. It was they didn't execute. They were undisciplined at the worst times.
The Sky Moore special team stuff is we can give him a little bit of a break.
Yeah.
If it's just that, young guy, learn it. But that combined with the other mistakes that were made, the Chris Jones, there's a lot of comments about Chris Jones, and you can't be at this point. And I'm curious what he said, Maddie, but to your point, you bring up a great point that players know there's certain things you say, a flag's coming out, assuming that was one of those things, but still, like it seems like a soft flag to me in that situation, knowing what it led to, but
if you told me the Chiefs were 2-1 at this point in the season, I wouldn't have been surprised. I would have said, what did that young defense do, though, one of those games? Like, I would have, and like, I think we kind of said, I think the leash for me is longer than it was in recent memory because of how this team's been constructed, and I know it's probably going to have some growing pains. These growing pains are unacceptable for a team that has a lot of established leadership already in place. That's what frustrates me today. About how this game went down. These are not the things that you should be worrying about or dealing with as a football team. That's what pisses me off today. I mean,
that's correct. That's correct. The offensive line, the coaching, and the special teams are the things that you go into this year thinking are going to be good, right? Like that's when you're coming into the year saying there's going to be a learning curve on the young defense for the younger receivers or new receivers joining this offense. You're saying, but we have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. We have the best special teams coach in the NFL, and we are going to, we're going to do these things, and we have one of the better coaching staffs. All three of those things failed the team today. And I think what you saw as a result of that, when those three things that are supposed to be your constants, supposed to be the safety net, all fail you, and even with the defense stepping up, it didn't work out for them. Like if that happens week after week, I think they're going to have a hard time pulling out a lot more wins against quality opponents if those things don't get fixed. I expect they do. But when you lose those constants or that safety net, it's going to be really hard in the NFL.
Anger, click the like button. Anger, click the subscribe button. Leave the angriest comment that you can. No, don't do that. Tucker has to read them. Guys, just real quick, I didn't know if you knew this, if you were on yet when I read this out, and I think I have another stat too. So, do you guys, without looking, do you know Clyde Edwards-Helaire's rushing line today?
Yeah, it's 0 yards, 7 carries.
7 carries, 0 yards, and a touchdown. That's so hard. That's an amazing stat line. I'm sorry. That's funny.
That's a Iowa offense stat line right there.
Yeah.
It's an Iowa college football stat.
I'm upset with myself for last week saying that Matt Amendola earned a Super Bowl ring last week.
Oh yeah, didn't we give him a toast?
What did he do last week? Kick an extra point, or
he made a 22-yard field goal, or whatever it was.
He made a very, very important field goal.
I can't believe he won that job. I don't like the process. I wasn't going to criticize it, but I didn't like the process by which they used to select a kicker. Like, Matt Amendola was fighting for a job for a whole month in Houston and was terrible in the preseason. And he didn't make the team.
I literally can look at his stat sheet. Like, I've never scouted an NFL player for a team. I can take one quick look to his stat sheet and say, no, he's not the guy that we are going to bring on. I think it's that simple, really. Like, I think it's a pretty easy one. Like, his kicking resume is not that good. So the fact that you could bring him in and he could beat out 6 other guys is wild. And the fact that they didn't trust him to kick a short one and they went for it on 4th down, then try to fake field goal. I don't know. I don't know how we got there.
And then, okay, so it's 4th and 10. You know what we should do? We should, no offense, Tucker earmuffs. We should let Tommy Townsend throw it in the flat and let Noah Gray get 7 yards of yak to get a first down. Like,
well, you got to throw it to give him a chance. He double clutched it and took away any chance he even had.
Yeah,
that was the best part.
Those kicking balls are harder to throw. So shout out Tommy Townsend for trying to throw that, but
that's where we're at.
Throwing,
hey,
rolling
like a champ today.
Rolling
slander him.
Rolling your punter to your left, to his left, to throw in the flat with a kicker ball. Huh. I don't know.
He was their best offense today. He was their best offense. I don't know why we're mad at him for giving him a chance. His punts were probably the best thing they did on offense. They put the Colts deep in their own field position to turn the ball over. That's called offense, baby. When the offense looks like this, that's what we're gunning for.
It's really hard to take a step back and look at it from 40,000 feet, but you guys bring up like a really good point. I'm going back to like what you said about the young defense. If you would have said we were 2-1, you would have assumed that the young defense made some mistakes, not the fact that the only reason the Chiefs are 2-1 right now is because of the defense. The only reason that they won against the Chargers, the only reason this game was anywhere close is because the defense played pretty well.
Yeah. No, the defense has been awesome. I have zero qualms with that defense. I have zero qualms with them right now. I think they're doing just fine with all these young guys. They've gelled quickly. Spags doesn't seem to be held back too much right now. He's getting to dial up a bunch of pressures. He's getting to kind of call his game aggressively. He's trusting those guys and putting those guys out on an island a little bit. And yeah, I mean, the offensive regression's just been bad. It's stunningly bad.
All right, looking forward. Let's start to wrap this up. Tucker's gonna peruse around social media, see if there's anything coming out from the pressers, anything like that. But Craig, let's go with you. Looking forward, Chiefs take on the Bucs this week. What do they got to fix? What's the answer, Craig? See you later, Craig. Maddie,
I think Craig's just
difficulties.
he's just disappointed.
What?
He's a defensive guy. He's just disappointed in our offense. So he just left. I get it. I get it being the defensive guy, and this is what you get. I get it. Looking forward just for the rest of the week. I want to go back. I'm just not excited. I'm going to rewatch this game very angrily just to try to figure out where things went wrong. Like, I just want to understand. That's all I care about when things go poorly. I just want to understand what happened. So I want to understand why the Chiefs offense is struggling so much. And I think I'll feel a lot better once we get to that point. But until then, just watching it live, it's rough. So like I'm excited to know why, so I can hopefully wrap my mind around how it gets better from here.
Yeah, similar. I want to see what's happening downfield a little bit more. I think pass protection was just really, really, really rough. Like I think that was a big factor in all this. And like Mahomes was running for his life and having to create extremely quickly. And even a couple of the plays that they showed on the back end, from the coverage views and some of that kind of stuff. You saw some guys uncovering a little bit. Like I think there was Travis Kelce or Juju on a dig, but like Mahomes didn't have time. He didn't have time. So like, how much of it is these guys just aren't getting open at all? How much of it is the time that Mahomes had was forcing some, structural issues there, and Mahomes not being able to find, guys out of that. And, like I think that's one of the things I'm going to kind of be looking at a little bit this week as well. Craig's going to have fun with the defense.
I'm going to be watching the injury report, see how Harrison Butker's doing.
Butker watch.
I wonder if Danny Amendola
are they related?
Could kick. No, it's spelled differently.
All right, Tucker.
I just want Justin Reed to kick.
Justin Reed, yeah.
They should have just let Justin Reed.
They should. Tucker, do you have anything from social media?
Listen, there's not really much going on in the press conference. Just a lot of disappointment, I think. And you're hearing a lot of the same things over and over from the coaches. Andy Reid said he didn't have the guys ready for this game. That seemed pretty evident. Chris Jones said in the locker room after the game he didn't think he said anything vulgar or disrespectful. That's what Chris thought.
That's a very tongue-in-cheek, like, I didn't think it was disrespectful. I was just telling the truth.
Mahomes said when the defense plays like this, we've got to win these football games. He's absolutely right. And he said I didn't expect any growing pains. And at the halftime conversation, Mahomes said that he wanted to score. That's who I am in regards to the quote-unquote altercation. In terms of the altercation, that's from Harold Kuntz from Fox 4. So, a lot of just kind of no injuries is what Andy Reid also reported at the press conference. But a lot of coach speak, as you would say, after this one. Nothing that we aren't too accustomed to hearing.
A lot of mea culpa.
Yep.
So that's what the presser. You're not getting a lot of answers out of the press conferences, and the proof will be in the pudding and see how they come out and play against Tampa Bay. And I'm excited to see what you guys dig up looking into the film this week to try to come up with some answers to fans wanting to know why has the offense been struggling. That was not the concern coming into the early part of the season, was what answers the offense was going to have. You knew they were going to struggle against the Chargers. I was not thinking this game was going to be any kind of an issue because you were not facing Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack and Derwin James, and you weren't facing those dudes. They didn't have Shaq Leonard. They didn't have their best player on defense. So, along with Buckner, but
yeah, Tampa's not
running circles, just running circles around Orlando Brown every play.
Orlando Brown was not good at all. That's not tape that's going to get him paid the way he hopes to get paid. He's got some stuff to figure out. It's his start of the season hasn't been great. At least they're playing Tampa next week. That's a really good matchup to solve issues against physical secondary players and good pass rushes and good defensive fronts that can stop the run. I mean, that's a get right game if I've ever heard of one. Big challenge this week.
Yeah, I guess if you're looking for a silver lining, the Jacksonville Jaguars, granted, as we're recording, they're beating the Chargers, and then obviously the Bills losing to the Miami Dolphins, which just pisses me off even more because it's an opportunity to separate yourself playing against a team that you had no business losing to. And I can't think of one scenario in which the Colts played really well.
No.
Everything I think about this game, I try to remove myself, try to be as unbiased as possible, but everything is about what the Chiefs messed up.
Yeah.
Or the decisions that they made, not they went out and earned it. Alec Pierce made a couple of really nice catches. Michael Pittman made some nice catches, but Matt Ryan got sacked 5 times. He was under pressure. Like, Chiefs turning the ball, like all of it.
They could have survived half of the things that went wrong and won.
Sure.
And probably covered. Like, won comfortably. That the Colts are bad. I was woefully unimpressed with the Colts.
Yeah.
The Colts are bad. The Chiefs were bad. The Chiefs were worse.
The
Somehow.
Colts pass rush was pretty good. I'll give them that. I'll give them a hat tip for there. Their pass rush I actually thought was pretty good. And the Chiefs offensive line didn't make it difficult, but I thought they did a good job with their pass rush. They made offense not easy for the Chiefs, and the Chiefs, let it happen. Like, they didn't do anything to stress them. So it's a chicken or egg kind of argument there. But I think the Colts defense played really well for not having their best player and going through it and fighting through all that. But outside that, it was mostly just the Chiefs shooting themselves in the foot. And I don't know if you guys had mentioned it yet, like, just the special teams looked poorly coached. Watching the kick returner run into blocks on every single kickoff, he literally running into the back of a blocker on every single return. That was just, it didn't lead directly 2 points like a muffed punt or, a missed field goal kind of thing. But that was just as alarming because that's just like all kind of like a lack of discipline on the play. And that's not something, as many jokes as I crack about Dave Tobe, that's not something this team usually has.
Jacksonville is up 13-0 on the Chargers. So that's nice at least.
The NFL.
Weird league, man.
It's king. All right, we appreciate everybody for watching live on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, there at 101 The Fox. Wherever you are watching, we appreciate you spending part of your afternoon with us as we all air our grievances together and try to figure out what the hell just happened as one of the best teams in the AFC just lost to one of the worst teams in the AFC in a very winnable game that a lot of mistakes were made. Again, we'll have plenty of content at KC Sports Network this week to break it all down. I appreciate if you're watching listening to the podcast afterwards. Please rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff. And don't take it out on us that the Chiefs did not play well. We are feeling it just like you are. But Kent, why don't you take us home? I'm just going to start swearing.
Yeah, I do want to say, and it sucks the Chiefs lost. I am happy for Jelani Woods. A really, really cool story. You can actually find his story, a little bit of his story on the KCSN YouTube channel. 2 touchdowns in this game. I'm rooting for him, and if the Colts were going to catch 2 touchdown passes, I'm glad it was Jelani Woods. So
that's what we're going to end this on.
That's it. That's how you're ending this. That's how you're sending us out. Is you're happy for the Colts?
To do it, at least it's the guy that you see on our bumper on the intro for every KC Sports Network video. He's the one laughing that Tucker had rolling before we interviewed him at the Shrine Bowl.
Fine.
So now, if you want to be mad at us, you can be. I think it's now you're now allowed to be mad at Kent for ending it on that.
Thanks to everybody that stuck around and watched. There will be an airing of grievances. The Chiefs Divis will probably come on Monday again as well. So we will probably do a little bit of that like we typically do on the laboratory with some losses. No. Be sure to check that out.
I'll have Matt Miller from ESPN will join me tomorrow for our stock up, stock down report. That one ought to be interesting. We'll have our 10 Things podcast. And then, again, these guys with the KC Lab going live Monday night at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. That will be something that you're going to want to watch.
It's going to be fun.
So appreciate everybody for tuning in. We will see you next time. Chiefs 2-1, taking on the Bucks next Sunday. Hopefully they're better. We'll see y'all.